My name is Rachel Cohen. I currently am a teaching professional at Frog Hollow Racquet Club. We're located in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Uh, so, yeah.
Now, as we've talked about off the air, the situations that we're in, and the indoor, outdoor, and now we're in winter. Is your club functioning now in the winter indoors, or is it still kind of touch and go
Functioning currently
currently?
today. I think, of course, day by day. But we just came back from a 3 week shutdown for indoor. Again, hopefully that got some people also being able to vaccinate. We have some older players that I teach. An 83-year-old woman was in my clinic yesterday. She's getting her vaccine today. So, and just again, it is day by day and making sure we remind everyone the PPE, your protective gear, and it's it has to be done, and you know we don't want to have to be shut down again, but we'll follow anything
Right.
that the state says for us to do that's safe.
Well, let's start with that. How has this affected a private lesson?
Well, I think a lot. So our club actually went into mandatory masks indoors before, maybe back in November.
Okay.
So I think our players were a lot more used to it than others coming in from another club, say to play a USTA match or another match. Um, so I think that hasn't changed as much as far as keeping the distance, being masked. I mean, I think, there are circumstances. We know a tennis court is 78 feet long. And if I'm having a hitting lesson on the baseline, the other person is on the baseline. It does get difficult. Of course, also the higher level play, the more breathing or more you're gonna be running.
Right.
So I think, again, being smart about things, knowing where you are and knowing what again is comfortable or safe. We know 78 feet is plenty of room. So I know at a long rally I can pull down,
Yeah.
take a
Right.
nice breath, and I think we all have to, of course, to even take a drink.
Yeah.
But we have people make sure there's designated spots for everyone to have their stuff. I think it's great, only four to a court, so which is actually a lot better than when, say, packing in
You're
more and we're
jamming
getting a little
27
bit more
people, right?
attention. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I mean, they are. Yeah, I think it's just we've got so many sides to it. Some over careful, others too under. So we're trying to, everyone, I think, of course, is trying to find that middle ground where we should be worried, but not, well, lock ourselves in a.
Right. Inside a bunker. Well, I
In,
know when I would give when I would do a serving drill, especially in a one-on-one situation, I would be right there, and so you can mirror what I'm doing. I can see what you're doing. I can correct as what's happening instead of being way over there. Hey, your elbows dropped. That was kind of tough. So,
oh yeah, and
and
and you
now
can't
it's different.
see. Yeah, and you're not. You don't see as you can tell, say when a toss is off, but when we're going off by any
Yeah.
little things that or the video serves is not working from way over.
Right.
Um, and also, I mean, we weren't serving for a very long time. We weren't having people serve. They have to now be gloved on the tossing hand. So getting used to that, and
Right.
less they bring their own balls.
And
But
that's
bringing a can of balls to work on your serve is going to be It's gonna take a long time of
Yeah.
picking up three. So I think, by being able to be gloved, then we still make things, as safe as possible. We all have every pro has their separate set of balls, so we're color coded on our carts. So we, of course, we're gonna a ball's gonna get into my basket that was someone, but we can't be that being safe, as we can. I mean, there's no perfection of we still have door handles that are
Right.
any normal life things that well, if I just walked into the door and so
Open
did
things for
you,
elbows and yeah,
right?
right.
And there's some
Yeah.
now handles that can actually use your arm instead of your instead of the hand. But with the hand sanitizer on every court, I've, to me though, seen the shame with masks is anybody with glasses.
Yeah.
They fog. So it's hard to see that struggle when they're uncomfortable, when they're still though abiding by the rule. But I can just see it, that it's not
In midpoint, you're trying to. Yeah.
right. They're trying to breathe, and you just see fog,
Mhm.
and I it's a shame, but we
Well, I think what we make adjustments, we make changes, and I think we've all done that, and that's all fine and good. But I think the hard thing is trying to make those adjustments and still keep some sense of regularity to what you do. Now, I was thinking about, like, for example, you have a club championship or club tournament. That's a staple in what you do. But can you do that now, or do you figure out a way around it? Or do you say, and this is the struggles, like you say, well, this year we just won't do it.
right. It's kind of like with any tournament major, it's going to be asterisk 2020 because the we have to take into consideration who's played. I mean,
Right.
who shows up. Even we have different leagues, non-USTA, that we're really that are from all different clubs, but we everybody's worried, winning, losing. It's not that there's not enough continuity either. Just like after these 3 weeks, everyone's coming back. Oh, now I'm starting over again. Or I
Right.
was just getting there with that shot, and now I haven't touched the racket in 3 weeks, and so I think it's a lot of that. Where a little bit of the more frustration comes in is having those the delays.
But I think part of the good part of this, if you want to find a positive, which we all do, is that you're going to find people who maybe didn't know how much they loved it and how much they missed it until it was taken away. So when this all straightens itself out, you're going to have people coming back with a fervor like, I had to miss tennis for 3 weeks or 2 months, and I can't believe that, and I'm ready to go.
Oh, definitely. And I think too, not even the physical break that some people don't realize they might need. I think the mental break is, I mean, I had my first three lessons that were back were, but all three, I feel like I'm not going to be able to hit them, but they all hit the best they ever did. They were
Right?
much more relaxed because it, everybody's timing is off, as I said. Everybody is. So just go out there. But they went out there and did things that we had been working on way before, and it's kind of they stopped overthinking
Right.
because it's let's just see what happens. And I've had some of the best lessons this week from taking that off. And I think sometimes we don't realize we need the mental break, that well, physically we're all fine, or that we think we are, but there are a lot of these adults or kids playing matches and are in their head a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
They you'd have to force them to take that mental
Right.
break, and they were forced to do it. And to me, I think it was beneficial to a lot of people more than not. And I think a lot more people didn't think it was gonna go as well or to feel
Right.
so good to be back out there again. So I,
Did have you received any, or should you? I guess is better a better word. Received any directive from USPTA, PTR, anyone saying you guys should maybe try this now because of blah blah blah, or does that seem like that's maybe more out of the realm of what should be done?
to me, I mean, I think that should be, well, USTA I know has been, there's been talks of getting rid of the whole NTRP and a lot of the USTA. They just, there's not a lot of funding. There's not,
Right.
there's traveling to a tournament to go to another state now. You have to get tested. You're quarantined coming back in. Who's gonna hold? There's not. I don't know how you're holding that many tournaments. There's, we don't have that many players in general. Also now, and and the travel now is completely the, definitely I would, is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, again, the higher level of tournaments aren't in your state. So you do travel for the better players and to play the better players, but then you have to be COVID tested when you get there and when you come back, and so it's that where that, who knows how long they can, to me, keep that up, not being able to have those events. Like I kind of think even team tennis, they, it's the same type of thing. To just, if you can't go, like that was the fun part, was to be that close and to be right there, but you can't. So
It's like if you had world team tennis and you had a club that was 8 miles away, that was one thing. But even now, you can't commute between those two, or you
no,
probably shouldn't go to their club and their club. So you find more interesting ways to develop what you do on your end. I was just wondering if there was any kind of governing body. Hey, we're suggesting a few things, or is it just kind of figured out on your own kind of thing?
kind of feel like it's a figure. I think that, nobody's really sure what,
Right.
what we're gonna do. Obviously, we can't predict. I don't think anything changing anytime soon. Not to be a negative, but I think we're gonna have to be a lot safer for a lot longer.
Right.
Even,
Right.
even hopefully when things pass, but it's still going to continue and continue. So, you know, the safety guidelines are there, but it's just, they're helpful for your own club, I feel like, but we really can't change. The USTA still has to govern the tournament. Still need referee. I don't, no, some of the referees, not their full-time job. Is that what you want to,
Right.
do you want to put
Right.
yourself in that position for, 2 days for a tournament? So that's that. Let's say the more elective things like that. Um, but I'm worried about the USTA sort of surviving this, the adult USTA,
Right.
because I know we've moved
Well,
on
it's
to
a
EPR.
situation. Well, I'm looking at it from, and as we were talking a little bit off the air, it's the USTA and those kind of those bodies survive on basically our fees, right?
Yep.
And if we're not there to pay our fees, and we're not there to play the games and be involved, and that's at the club level. But as we were talking a little bit more on the larger level, as I have in the background, I've got some empty seats at the Australian Open, which to tell you the truth, I didn't realize it started yet.
It's funny you said that. I don't even know. I mean, even I'm a football fan. I didn't even know when my team was playing. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you're just so far removed. I feel like from it. It's not advertised really. There's really not many sports commercials. If you kind of think about it, it's there. I would have, I wouldn't have known about the Australia until you just said it.
Yeah, I
Would
thought it was
not have
postponed
even,
until whenever.
and I probably wouldn't know who was playing.
No clue.
That's the other, I mean,
No
it's,
clue.
I don't want to say it's good for them, but it, it's a tough, it's not, I don't say it's not exciting to me,
Well,
or,
I I heard that Federer wasn't playing, and I went, well, who else is playing? Because well, when does it start? And I mean, literally an hour ago, I looked up something. Went, oh, it started Sunday or Monday. I went, really? When?
yeah,
Who?
which the
How? Okay.
Australian I always had
But
the worst time with anyway because of the timing.
sure,
Because I'd always, I'm like, oh, I just missed it. And then I hear, it happened tomorrow, or they already finished, or it was, so,
right. Or
so
it
that
was
was
yesterday, but tomorrow, right?
right. This was always the most difficult major for me, timing wise. But again, I think too, not even aware of what month we're in, but it, we're almost coming up on a year of
Yeah.
which is to me, I mean, yes, we know time goes by, but it this was quick. A lot has happened in this past year, so a lot.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because as what we're doing, I do a lot of, but I have to constantly look at the calendar and go, is that tomorrow? Is Tuesday? I think no, I must have missed it. I really don't know because there's no sense of the passage of time. It's like,
Right, I
oh,
know.
well, that was my buddy's birthday was 4 weeks ago. Oops,
Nobody's going to dinner for your birthday. I mean,
right,
also, right? There's anniversaries, there's birthdays, just had a ton of holidays that and
no clue.
it unfortunately, right? We have no idea. I mean, again, I always have a paper calendar. I'm very old school, but it has at least the holidays on
Right,
there and the dates and for me, obviously it's cold out. I'm like, well, it is January, and I'm like, God, wait, I see, almost the end of well, not the it's gonna be the end of January, much quicker than we think. I mean, this kind of started in well for us February, but so yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me that it's almost a year going by, and I think I don't want to say everyone people are more comfortable with it, but are adapting a little bit. Well, it's forced us to adapt to a lot of changes
right.
and a lot of
Well, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we had 200 and something days without rain. I couldn't have told you really. I'd have no idea. We had the whole summer, which was 105, 108. I missed the entire summer. I don't remember it being 100 degrees because I'm standing next to air conditioning all day long or sitting next to air
right.
conditioning. I don't recall the summer.
You're
I don't
not
recall the
out
summer.
there
Not at
sweating
all.
on the courts and not
Even just to go get in the car.
yeah
You don't
yeah
even do that. It's like I missed everything. So when we're looking at how all this translates to, let's look at the professional level of tennis. And when we mention professional levels of tennis, we're talking about people driving from tournaments to tournament in their cars. We're not just talking about the Australian, the French, and Wimbledon, and the Masters series and all that. We're talking about people that make a living playing tennis, but they're not making $150,000 an event.
right.
How serious is this for those people? And I don't always want to touch on the negative, but how serious is it that this may end up going away because of where we're at?
Right, and unfortunately, to me, I feel that the negative is realistic.
Right.
It
Better
as
way of
much
putting it.
as
Thank you.
but to not to say, oh, everything's going to be great, and it's me is not being positive, just not being realistic, and just the sense that in discussing these players, the high level high school players that want to play in college, or even college players, I again, with the traveling and the different laws going from state to state and having to be tested, having to quarantine upon your arrival back into state. It's going to affect school for kids. It's going to
Right.
me affect visiting colleges. It's affecting a lot more, and also a lot of these parents aren't working potentially. Tennis, we need money for rackets, restringing, sneakers, entry fees to get there. If it's far, a hotel, sometimes that's not now going to be the first on the list
Right.
when if family is having a tougher time. And that's another thing again with I say that's tennis being a more of a money sport. Is say you can't just jump on a basketball court and grab a ball
Right.
and or you wouldn't need to be traveling. But we in this sport, that's something that if you want to go further and pursue a scholarship or even look at a college to walk on, it's hard to do right now. I mean, especially with kids, some kids not even, I mean, some of the schools not even open for in class.
Right. Right.
So you're virtually visiting a school.
Well, and let's look at it from just let's create a scenario. You've got a 13-year-old kid who really has potential to be a player. Okay, so at this time of year, or it could be any time of year, let's just say right now, there used to be a lot of tournaments going on, from state to state, from town to town, whatever. And in order for that term to be applied, you have to have A, players, B, administration at the site, C, parents, because a 13-year-old kid just doesn't show up on his own.
Hopefully,
And
right?
then, oh, all right. And well, that's really, well, that's another story entirely.
All
A
right.
coaches, and then, of course, usually involved in that are little brother, little sister, big brother, big sister, because they've got to get back and forth. You just don't leave them at home. So you've brought a lot of people into the mix, and if just one person or one thing goes wrong, so let's say it's mom drops you off and then mom's over here off to the side and the wind blows and somebody's whatever, and now you're, what, we can't go home now, you know, uh, there's so many things
I
that
would say
swirl
there's so many
around in there.
variables in that sense too. Is yeah, I know people that have been in another state and contracted it, and they're stuck there. I mean, and and that's I think again the toughest thing is that it's the fact that the symptoms are not seen on a majority of these
Right.
cases. That's what makes it so much tougher. Um, I think I'm having a medical background as well. It's kind of you know it, it in bringing in thinking of that too when we had the SARS outbreak, and that was kind of the beginning of seeing people with masks
Right.
on airplanes. And I was like, would think that was crazy. I mean, now I wouldn't feel like that was genius, but also, I mean, SARS was more it's dangerous in the sense that if you had it, you looked visibly very ill. There wasn't a
Right.
half or not. You were in the hospital or you didn't have
Right.
it. This is you're walking around perfectly fine, then you
Then you're
didn't
not.
have
Yeah.
it, and you don't even know it yet.
Right.
So there's a lot of even incidental where you need a test for a minor surgery or a tooth out, and whoop, they tested us and now I'm positive. Well, now the whole
Right.
family is in. Did you go
Right.
anywhere, and who did you come in contact with, and did that person go to their friend's house? And we all want to say that we haven't seen somebody outside of our group, but you can't. I mean,
Right.
you cannot help it. I just bought a car, and that person drove my car around and in, and I mean it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I'm not saying I can't ever go somewhere, but that's the most, I think, difficult part of this of the COVID-19 is that I don't want to say the non-believers, but the less believers, it's because it's not right in their face, unless it's someone personal. Like
Well,
we're not
if
seeing these sickly
right, yeah.
people walking around, and that that's it. It's so you look fine, and then you feel fine a lot of the times. So I think that also is skewing some of the laid back, uh, not using the PPE,
Right.
and
Well, I'm fine. He's fine. We should be okay. Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that's yeah, well, and should be. Well, again,
Yeah.
that's you talk to one person, and one person talk to 10, you talk to 20, you talk, I mean,
Hmm.
so again, and it's a shame because I've had that, where you're putting other people on that court, not necessarily in a comfortable position. So, um, yeah, I think there's a lot of people too that, want to compete and can't, and they're putting a lot of work practicing and then the thought might be for what now?
Well, I look at it this way
And maybe
because
that was a little negative,
yeah,
probably.
but
But
but no, seriously. Okay, here's the correlation I'm going to draw because as a former coach, we had trainers all over the place, and it for a while there, it was not that they weren't trying to be safe, but it just wasn't industry standard. And then the staph infections and MRSA and all that came out. And suddenly everybody had their gloves and
right.
everybody had their sanitizer. Everything was wiped down, and you went from one person to another. So it made that industry a lot safer and people a lot more aware of what they were doing. So, and I'm not saying that we should run around and wear masks all the time. I remember a few years ago on the Strip in Las Vegas, I saw a group of tourists walk around with masks on. I went, that's got to be an uncomfortable way to live. And to be in fear of, oh, it's not fear. It's making sense now to me. Didn't make sense to me then, but it does now.
Yeah, and
So,
that's again, I remember, yeah, it was, I remember how many years that was with when when you see them, see people again on the plane, and I'm
yeah,
like, oh God, are they gonna? First of all, it's gene. How many people get sick on the plane anyway? So it really, uh, I mean, I think a lot of us thought it was a little overkill, but I think those
don't get me
people had it
wrong.
right to begin with. There's, and I think too, obviously not getting into political things, but that is a big issue also with what
Right.
is
Where we
happening,
stand, right.
you know, too, and I think too a lot with the gyms and uh, for mental health and things, but what we want to have good mental health going to the gym one day, but then have COVID the next. I think your mental health is not going to be very good anymore. So
Right.
it's
Well,
it's
let's look at this from an entertainment stress relief kind of point of view. As we mentioned, the Australian Open started yesterday or day before yesterday, whatever the international date line is, and I didn't know it until an hour or two ago. Okay, but when we look at okay, obviously we've missed a tournament, a big one, and that's the one that I think most every tennis aficionado has their remote on watching.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that it kind of went by the wayside, and I didn't really realize it, and that's Wimbledon. Then I had a chance to speak to the gentleman whose name just dropped out of my head, which is weird because I say his name just about every third day, who is the COO of operations of the National Tennis Center in New York. And I talked to him way back before they even think about having the U.S. Open. But when I talked to him, he said, well, basically at that point, the National Tennis Center is a bivouacked hospital at that point. They were just starting to get out of that and
Right.
getting back to having tennis. But how important, or should it be important, that we have for tennis people who rely on that as entertainment to have the French Open, to have Wimbledon, to have the Masters Series, to be able to put those events on A, for the players so they can make a couple of dollars. B, so the sponsors can get their names and their products out there where we can see it. C, for the tournaments. And D, for us. But did any of that suffer because we didn't have Wimbledon, and maybe we'll have it this year, maybe we won't. Having the French Open in, I don't know, whatever it was, November, October, whatever it felt like, it didn't feel right.
Well,
Is
I think that's
should
because
be or
right,
shouldn't we?
yeah, the times. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
Oh,
just
go ahead.
cut you off. And I'm sorry. Repeat. I just lost my train of thought. Of course.
I'm trying to remember the name of the gentleman I talk to all the time. It should is there a reason for us to make sure
I
that
got you.
we have the events, even other than just having the event? I guess.
I get. I think. I mean, I don't hear nearly as many people talking about when there is a major because again, I don't know how. I didn't even know the Australian was right now. So somebody says, "Did you see that match last night?" I say, "I don't. What match?" And I think even saying earlier, entertainment with football. It, it's it's a shame that it's not the same. Not seeing other people in a crowd.
That's
I
the
think
perfect
it,
way of
it
putting it. Yes.
gets you. You're not. It's tough again for. I know I keep going to football, but being a football, but on a Sunday you have everybody over, and that's But to sit there and see a cardboard face, and I mean, not saying you need but yeah, I think it definitely is. I think a prime example is people us forgetting that there's even these things happening. I mean,
Yeah.
like the fact that as tennis pros, or and that we don't even know, did not even know one of the majors was happening, and it's just because and I think in mind it's not to say not important, but I don't feel that it's as exciting, and I think it's tough for the players as
Sure.
well. I mean, that definitely helps you mentally, having the crowd. It's I mean, I know that's not their only reason, but a lot of people have come back from being down, and that crowd's been behind them, and it's just the camaraderie and the isn't there. Um, it's it's like when they canceled March Madness. I'll never forget. Obviously,
Yeah.
but that was like I felt horrible for the kids, but or other things where nobody in the stands. Well, this then that kind of gives you're part of a team. You're
Right.
part of something else, and it kind of makes it even more of a lonely sport. Not some people say feel though singles, you're out there say alone compared to having your doubles partner. But I think I would I would rather watch more doubles as entertainment because we rarely saw it anyway.
Right. Right.
I mean, I'm coming from the double more of that side,
Right.
but I'm a little more biased. But also, again,
Well,
they're out. It's a little more. Again, the crowd makes things exciting. It changes players. It's it's just like when the Knicks would play, and you have Spike Lee on the sideline, and they're talking back to each. I mean that's something. The commentators, it's they got to do a lot to do. There's a lot for them to try to fill time to talk about because there's just not much going on. I mean, the Super Bowl, I can't even imagine is
not even being on the site. Right.
right. Like just and say you're right. I mean, everybody's losing money. Right? The ratings of the stations, the people holding it, the people who work there, the lines, people, the I mean, everyone. The concession, you don't. All of those things are gone, and it's taken the fun out of it. I feel. I mean, and I it's
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I was in my 30s playing in a corporate basketball league in a big soulless Quonset hut of a building gym, you know, and it was cold and there was an echo and it was I mean it was fun to play with the guys I was playing with,
like
but
a
there
old high school building. That's
yeah, but it didn't really I wasn't really charged to play. Plus, I should have retired 5 years before that anyway. So it was just kind of okay. One person, the somebody's best friend on the other team, booed me or heckled me or whatever.
I was, huh.
That one person elevated my game because, like, oh, I have someone against me now. Ha ha! And I'm going to go out and play, and I played much better. And we all know that. You know, as a competitor, there is something you find in the middle of a match. One winner, oh, they jobbed me on that call, or these balls are flat, or what's wrong with my strength? Something
Or you look
galvanizes
up and
you.
they clapped when somebody clapped when you
Yeah,
missed. You double
right.
faulted
Oh
and
yeah,
you're
right.
like, oh
You
my,
don't even know the rules of this
I don't even
stupid
know
game.
you, right? You don't
Yeah,
clap
yeah.
on that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and it spurs you on.
But
Now
then I'm like,
imagine
yeah,
it's not there, and not into get into the gambling aspect of Bill. That's the city I live in. They have things called the home field advantage. So you get 3 points if you're playing at home,
there
almost
is,
automatically.
there's no advantage. Yeah, there's nothing here. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's well,
it's,
we didn't have to drive or fly, but whatever. Yeah, it seems just that much weirder.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's and then like you said too, the traveling. I mean, I don't know many people that are flying, or hopefully not these days, but um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's just it's going to be a tough time. It still is, regardless. With the guidelines in play. Still think I noticed a little bit of a drop off. I mean, on a positive note, though, I think some kids are getting into a sport because they're now virtual and are sitting at home and their parents want them out to do something, but
I was gonna do something
but
right.
but some of them never played in their life and now love, happen to really enjoy it. Others it was just to get them to try to get out, and do something. So, I mean, that was a positive thing, was, well, we'll get him into tennis maybe, or he used to play when he was a little younger, and now we've got be sitting at home. We got to get some exercise anyways, so let's try it. So
I get the feeling that we're a group of people, and we're going to end this on a positive note, but I get the feeling we're a group of people where we look down and we look, and your dog's looking at you like, why are you here now? Shouldn't you be elsewhere?
oh
I'm
yeah.
supposed to be tearing stuff up right now, and there you are staring at me again. Really? Go. Do something. Leave me alone. This
Well,
is the
that's why I
way
say,
this
what
game
would you be
works.
doing if I wasn't here? You'd be sleeping. No, I mean,
Yeah.
you no, but
Yeah. Right. But this is the way this game works. You play with me when you're here, then you go away and I get to be me. Whether it's a dog, cat, bird, whatever you have, kids, whatever. And we've unnaturalized our existence because, well, now we're quote, and I love the commercial where the everyone takes the dog for the walk and the dog's like, leave me alone, I just
oh,
want to sit here. So okay, now what have we gotten out of this that's going to be a positive down the road, though? Because I do see that we have, even though we've changed some things up by necessity, I think we're going to get something good out of it. What do you see that we've gotten good tennis wise out of this, or we will get?
I think definitely. I think we're actually essentially getting some more people picking up a new sport. Um, Also, some some teamwork. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
teamwork. I mean, in between your co-workers, your peers, the players. It's a difficult time, so we know it we're we always I was praised, thank you for wearing your masks, and everybody, and I think to try to not say it's not there, but to make it as as much fun as it should be, but to, sort of not harp on, oh, this mask is annoying. Yeah, well, it's annoying for everyone. Or just like
Right.
when you had the sun in your eye. Well, what's
Right.
that other person has the
It's just
sun in
still
their
there,
eye
right?
too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and, unfortunately, it's not great, but at least we're out here and we can. And I think, once if we can just keep pushing that, and also by continuing to follow the guidelines, we'll be able to play more and to stay open longer without breaks. So it's pretty much everybody needs to come together and stay safe. I know it sounds like the commercials, but if you want to play, then we've got to follow the guidelines. And but I think it's going to be some time. I think a lot of people don't know. I don't.
Right.
They're all trying to figure it out. Also, um, this is a once in a lifetime thing, and there wasn't really a handbook for
Right.
it. So, and especially then going forward with sports, even more. Um, so, I think I say hang in there as long as we need to. Hope for I'd say hope for warm weather.
Well, I think, and that's always the hey, the spring's going to come at some point. Only more of a
Get out some
general
something to
thing.
look
Yeah.
for. I think a little bit of
Right.
something to look forward to. Of course, being January, it's still a little ways away, but I think that also definitely get some fight back in some people and get them wanting
Right.
to get out there and hope and now's the time then to practice for the tournaments when we can go back to that. So yeah, it's different than it was, different than last year, but right now it is what it is. So I think as long as we can do it and enjoy what we're doing and staying healthy, uh, that's all we can do right now.
I think what it gives us two things that may initially seem to be a contradiction, but they're really not. One, it gives you the idea of conformity isn't such a bad thing when it makes sense.
Mhm.
But it also gives you the opportunity because we have more time to be introspective. We have more time to think about right and wrong, good or bad. It gives us the ability to not conform to everything.
That's
And
very
so you get a chance to sit around and go, let me think about this. When they were talking about how I'm supposed to hit my forehand, what they meant was, or now I'm going to think about that. So I make it work for me. And when I come back out, now I understand. This is why they say don't serve with a forehand grip. Oh, now I get it. Okay, because, and now I'm able to sit there and go, that's what my hand does when I want it to. Oh, okay.
Also, I
So
wonder why my wrist hurts
yeah, well, my wrist hurts. Right, exactly.
from
Yeah,
from
right, exactly. Which you
um,
try and explain, and no one seems to get that. It's like, why are
right.
my
Or
feet facing
really,
this
I
way when
I
hit?
have to hold it here.
Why am I facing that way when I'm trying to hit the ball that way?
Yeah.
I get it. So I think because now you're gonna. Well, this is my time. This hour I would have been playing tennis. So if I'm at home, maybe your mind drifts to the things that you were being taught, and maybe you get up and shadow stroke a little bit.
I had a couple people say even at home they were watching some tennis. I said, "Don't, you're not. You're watching Federer." I said, "Don't take it too." But no, there's, just but there he's. I was watching their footwork a little, and they're not taking these big steps. They're lighter on their, so things that they actually never would. I've never watched. They've said I've never even watched tennis, but after we had our lesson and you mentioned that, I figured, I can't come in, so and they kind of do that same thing. I'm like, yeah, just a little bit better than us,
So
but
I am almost ready to bust out laughing because it's a conversation my brother and I have. How can you go take a lesson and want to play and you've never seen anyone play tennis before? That just blows me away because
oh,
it's there. You can just turn around and go, there's a professional tennis match. That's what they do. Like I said, you may not be Roger, but You can be somebody
It's just
and
like,
understand what they do.
right, if I give them an example of even a professional of what something they do with a stroke, I said, I don't expect you to hit like that. It's just an example of the technically best
Yeah.
player, and that's just from a technical aspect. I mean, a lot of times, again, you're not going to look like everybody else or anybody else,
And you
and
shouldn't.
nor you
Right.
should. I was going to say you shouldn't. A comedian does their own jokes, not somebody else's. So, and that's the same thing with entertainment too. Is I know, little switch, but to do comedy is going out. You can't go out to a comedy show with nobody in the
Right.
audience. So it's definitely that, and that's where I think the interpersonal, like you said, relationships and conforming to
Right.
the positive things, you know, in light of everything that's been
Well,
happening.
we've been given the gift of indefinite homework, where
Oh
you
yeah,
can YouTube or masterclass or whatever you want to do. Um, hey, I've got nothing to do for the next hour or two, and since I don't have to worry about getting up for work at 7 o'clock, I can stay up until 3 o'clock, and I can and like I've always wanted to figure out how to make apple dumplings.
I'm still figuring out why I'm not working out in my own house. That's the motivation there.
Yeah.
Again, though, it's another, going to the gym, having someone to
Right.
go
Oh yeah.
with. You're not picking up anyone in the car, or it's things are.
But again,
But I think
that's another thing that will eventually, I think, for all of us, unless we want to just become accustomed to that seat and not be able to get up and walk around, eventually we're all going to say, I have to do something
right.
because now I can't walk to the refrigerator. I like the refrigerator. That's where the good stuff is,
Well,
but I can't get up even get there now. So,
right.
yeah,
I was
you know,
gonna say you can count how many steps you made it to the refrigerator and back,
yeah.
but maybe not how many you ran outside or somewhere else. But
Well,
you
I
know,
tell you what, here's why I'd like to leave this because I think that we're in a position where even though we talked about some stuff that may not on the surface be positive, I think that we mine some good stuff because it gets us there. And I'd like to get to the point where in another few weeks or whatever, we review where we're here, where we're from, and maybe we've had a chance to talk to 3 or 4 people in the next few weeks and say, okay, how do we feel about this? How do you feel about that? Because this isolation thing is it's self isolation. Doesn't mean it has to be isolate. Again, we can do what we're doing here.
right,
We still
right.
have our phones. We can still chat with other
And
people.
minus COVID, we'd be doing it anyway.
Right, exactly. So we just can't be physically next to each other. So,
Right.
maybe we stir the pot and get some more people involved.
Yeah, and that is awareness too. Is
Yeah.
as much as more people are aware, then we can hopefully keep seeing changes,
Well,
positive
I
changes.
appreciate the time again.
Thank you.
If you want to yell at the people at the club, tell them to watch this, and then tell them
Oh, I
to
do.
yeah.
Trust me. I do always,
And
all the time.
if they want to chime in, give them my information, and we'll talk with them as well.
Excellent. I would love to. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
again, Rachel. All
All
right.
right.